as we get up with you. Starting right now. Let's go, Sean. Come on, it's been a big week. Shump is ready to go. Mike Tannenbaum's trying to make trades today already. We'll get into that as we go. Inside joke, but it's funny. Vinny Goodwill is here this morning. Jeff Darlington and Dominique Foxworth are up. We are 6 days from the NFL draft, which means when we wake up and do Get Up next Friday, 1 week from today, we'll be talking about round one. So let's make some predictions. Jeff Darlington, my insider extraordinaire. 1 week from this morning, what will we be talking about as the headline from round one of the draft?
Well, Greeny, the vibe across the league is that this is going to be a very trade-heavy first round. We saw 4 trades last year. We saw 5 trades in the first round the year before. We saw 6 the year before that. I could see 6+ in this year's draft. Kansas City Chiefs general manager Brett Veach made very clear that he sees such a bunched evaluation with a number of different positions that's going to cause a lot of jockeying between these GMs. I keep hearing it. We'll see if it proves true, but I think there's going to be a lot of trades in this first round.
Certainly as the first round goes along, I completely agree. We see that. That's the sort of thing he's talking about. But how about at the very top, Mike? Are there players in this class that you could see and teams that make sense to you that could be making deals at the very top of the class? Let's say the top 6 or 7 picks.
Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. We talked about him all week, and Mel Kiper actually mocked that. He is a rare play, Greeny. Even though he's an off-the-ball linebacker, he's 6'5". He ran 4.46. He could do things you rarely see in terms of his ability to run down the field 20, 30, 40 yards. Some people comp him to Fred Warner. I think that's his ceiling. So could somebody beyond Dallas who's at 12 trade up for him? I think that's one to watch.
Now, Sonny Styles is a player to start watching, I think, at 3. And I think there's almost no chance that he lasts as long as Washington at 7. But then again, crazy things happen all the time. Dominique, you study this stuff. You'll be there next week doing shows. Have you seen a player in this class that you've been studying, that you're ready for, that you say to yourself, that's the guy, if I'm a general manager, I'm going up and getting? Who's the player you think is worthy of giving up a lot of stuff for?
Yeah, I think Reese is that. I think Sonny Styles is obviously a name that I think could change your defense, but for a position that I think we value a little higher, we're projecting Reese, who was an off-the-ball linebacker, moving to edge rusher and impacting the defense. But when you watch his tape, the way that he impacts the offense, because he's kind of unblockable. He's not the heaviest guy in the world, but you still watch him throw big offensive linemen around. He's a guy that projects to be able to impact a game immediately from a bunch of different places. As we move to a league that requires a lot more versatility from defenses, I think a player like that is someone that players could, or that teams will be interested in moving up to acquire.
Darvell Reese, who might go to the Jets. There's a lot of that speculation, but if the Jets take another pass rusher in David Bailey, then maybe Arvell Reese becomes in play, and that's a spot that people try and trade up to get. Let me come back to you, Dominique, then for our second question, or it's the same question, but you're the second person I'll ask it to. When we wake up on Friday morning, what do you think is going to be the headline of Get Up coming out of round one?
I think we're going to be surprised that the Titans decide to pass on Jeremiah Love. I know we've been mocking Jeremiah Love to the Titans for a while now. All the big mock drafts suggest that's where he's going to end up. But I find it hard to believe that Robert Saleh is going to pass on one of those defensive players. There are going to be 3 defensive players, I think, on the board. At least one of them still going to be available when it comes to Robert Saleh in the Titans pick right there. I'd be surprised, given the way that we know running back value is impacted by the offensive line and how average running backs you can get for a good price. The impact players on defense for a defensive-minded head coach who's always had great...
The NFL draft is 6 days away, and the Get Up crew just broke down the 2 biggest storylines, Jeremiah Love and Sonny Styles. Let me tell you why both of these players could define the first round. First, Jeff Darlington set the stage. He said the vibe across the league is that this is going to be a very trade-heavy first round. We saw 4 trades last year, 5 the year before, 6 the year before that. He could see 6+ in this year's draft. He said Kansas City GM Brett Veach made it very clear that he sees such a bunched-up valuation with a number of different positions. That's going to cause a lot of jockeying between GMs. Then Mike Tannenbaum asked about players at the very top of the draft. Jeff Darlington immediately mentioned Sonny Styles. He said, "We talked about him all week. He is a rare player. Even though he's an off-the-ball linebacker, he's 6 feet 5 inches. He ran 4.46. He could do things you rarely see in terms of his ability to run down the field 20, 30, 40 yards. Some people comp him to Fred Warner. I think that's his ceiling." Mike Tannenbaum added that Sonny Styles is a player to start watching at 3. He said, I think there's almost no chance that he lasts as long as Washington at 7. Dominique Foxworth was then asked which player he would trade up for. He mentioned Darvell Reese, the edge rusher who projects to impact the game immediately from a bunch of different places. He said, as we move to a league that requires a lot more versatility from defenses, a player like that is someone that teams would be interested in moving up to acquire. But then the conversation shifted to Jeremiah Love. And this is where it got really interesting. Dominique Foxworth made a bold prediction. He said, I think we are going to be surprised that the Titans decide to pass on Jeremiah Love. He said all the big mock drafts suggest that's where he's going to end up, but he finds it hard to believe that Robert Saleh is going to pass on one of those defensive players. He said, given the way that we know running back value is impacted by the offensive line, the impact players on defense for a defensive-minded head coach who's always had great defenses, I would be surprised if they decide to stick with Jeremiah Love. Jeff Darlington then explained the conundrum. He said, this is the ultimate conundrum for GMS when it comes to the running back position. There's this pressure point between teams trying to value running backs to decide the impact they have on their offense. But when you start to play analytics and Moneyball, you also recognize that it's not always worth it to spend the value on a position like running back. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive end are the premier positions. Running back falls well after those. So GMS is saying, are we willing to go up and spend this on an impact player, or do we need to address those premier positions? It's a tough sell because he is a shiny object for these teams. Sumeb. Odie's going to jump and get him. The question is who? Then Mike Tannenbaum made the counter-argument. He said, I would take the running back that high, but there's a non-obvious reason. It's quarterback development. If we are at Tennessee, this is about developing Cam Ward. If we are at the Giants, it's about developing Jackson Dart. Jeremiah Love gets pigeonholed into the running back conversation, but he had 63 catches. When you watch him run routes, this is an offensive weapon. Tannenbaum then dropped the key line. He said, I understand Jeff's point on the analytics, but if the four of us were running a team, what I would push back on is this. On a $300 million salary cap, we are losing the surplus value argument on this player. Let's find it someplace else. There's $300 million in a budget. This player is too unique to pass up. That's the key. Too unique to pass up. Jeremiah Love is not just a running back. He's a weapon. He can line up in the slot. He can catch 60-plus passes. He never fumbles. He's a great pass protector. And he has home run speed. If you're a team with a young quarterback, that's exactly what you want. Someone who can take pressure off the QB, turn short passes into long gains, and keep the chains moving. But here's the counter. Dominique Foxworth made a great point about the offensive line. He said, the running game itself having an impact is the best thing you can do for your quarterback. But the question is who impacts the running game more, He offensive line or the running back? Most people would agree it's the offensive line. He used the Eagles as an example. Adding a high-caliber running back to a great offensive line explodes the offense. But adding a great running back to a bad offensive line? We saw it with Tyjae Spears last year. It doesn't always pan out. So where does that leave the Titans? They have a young quarterback in Cam Ward. They have a new head coach in Robert Saleh who wants to build a dominant defense. They have a top 4 pick. Do they take the shiny object in Jeremiah Love? Or do they take a defensive difference-maker like Sonny Styles or Darvell Reese? Mike Tannenbaum then made his final prediction. He said the Cowboys will stick and pick at 12 and 20. He said, they get 2 good defensive starters, and they meaningfully compete for the NFC East in 2026. Mel Kiper has them trading up. I think they're more than one play away. I think the board will fall their way, and they get 2 really good players at 12 and 20. He then named the player he wants at 12. Mond Robinson, the cornerback from LSU. He said, this is by far the best corner in this draft. He could play man-to-man, he has great ball skills, he's competitive, he's physical. I think he's going to be an outstanding player. And then at 20, he said they could still get a good pass rusher like Zion Young. Nate Belson, a former cornerback, agreed that Mond Robinson is tremendous. But he said he'd be shocked if Mansa Delane is still there at 12. He thinks the Chiefs, who lost almost all of their corners, won't let Delane or Robinson get past them at 9. Jeff Darlington agreed. He said, "The Chiefs are the pivot point in this first round. What they do at 9 changes everything. They can go so many different directions, and that will dictate the following picks after it." All right, let me wrap this up with some questions for you. Drop your takes in the comments. 1. Should the Titans take Jeremiah Love at 4, or go defense with Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese? 2. Is Sonny Styles worth a top 5 pick as an off-ball linebacker? 3. Do the Cowboys trade up for Sonny Styles or stay at 12 and 20? 4. Will the Chiefs take a cornerback at 9? And if so, which one? I'll read the best comments in the next video. Smash like if you think Love is too unique to pass up. Hit subscribe if you believe in Sonny Styles as a top 5 talent. And comment your mock draft for the top 10 picks right now. Let's go.